to Syrian refugees. And your predecessors and those appointed by President Trump's predecessors came to the Hill and made some very interesting statements. I'd like to read some of those in my time. General John Brennan, Director of Central Intelligence Agency, said this, 11/18/2015. I think it makes it even more incumbent on the security and intelligence professionals to make sure that we're able to look at individuals who are coming into this country with an eye toward what it is that we might know about individuals or ways that terrorist organizations might try to secret people into these networks, into these refugee flows. Would you agree with that statement?
That the terrorists are attempting to gain access to the United States, passing themselves off potentially as refugees. I do believe that they have got that in mind.
Yes, sir. Your predecessor, Secretary Johnson, said this, 10/21/2015. It is true that we are not going to know a whole lot about the Syrians that come forth in this process. That is definitely a challenge. We know that organizations like ISIL might try to exploit this, the Syrian refugee resettlement program. The good news is that we are better at vetting than we were 8 years ago. The bad news is that there is no risk-free process. He went on to say, 10/8/2015, I guess that was a little earlier, but the Syrian refugees are a population of people that we're not going to know a whole lot about. They testified over and over that Syria is in a civil war, and that the records, A, were never very good to begin with, B, have been destroyed, have been stolen, have been commingled. In fact, you can go to Turkey and change your identity with a new passport based on what we know. Director of National Counterterrorism Center in this committee on 10/8/2015 said this, Nicholas Rasmussen. The intelligent picture we have had of this, the Syrian conflict zone, isn't what we'd like it to be. You can only review refugees' submitted background data against what you have. How this is different than Iraq is we had people in Iraq, we were working on the Iraqi government. We don't know a whole lot about the Syrians. General Clapper, retired general, director of national intelligence, said this. As Syrian refugees descend on Europe, one of the obvious issues that we worry about, and in turn as we bring refugees into this country, is exactly what is their background. We don't obviously put it past the likes of ISIL to infiltrate operatives among these refugees. That is a huge concern of ours. Director of FBI, James Comey, said this. We can only query against that which we have collected. And so if someone has not made a ripple in the pond in Syria on a way that would get their identity or interest reflected in our databases, we can only query our databases until the cows come home, but nothing will show up because we have no record of that person. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue at hand that President Trump has recognized is that we don't have a whole lot of information on people from the war-torn areas. And ISIL has said they will infiltrate the refugee resettlement program and the migration into Europe. This is the pause for 90 days so that our intelligence folks can try to get this right. It turns off the Syrian refugee program until the president says we can properly vet those whom we're going to allow to live amongst us. This is good policy to keep America safe. It's not a Muslim travel ban. It targets an area of the world that is torn with civil war and has elements, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Abu Sayyaf, that are intent on doing Americans harm. I support this. General Kelly, thank you. I look forward to your continued leadership at the department. I look forward to working with you here. With that, I yield back.
Chair recognizes the gentleman.